Hello, welcome to the latest episode of my knitting and sewing and creative podcast. My name on Instagram is Orcus Heart and I'm coming to you from Birmingham in England. And yeah, I just thought I would give you a bit of a standard podcast catch up because my last episode was a bit different. It was exploring various things I've sewn and knitted, and I've thought about sewing or knitting inspired by the moon and like a moon motif. So yeah, I mean today's sort of roundup and sharing of what I've been making is probably 2 months worth. A lot of December and the whole of January. Some things I may have started earlier than that, I don't know. Kind of hard for me to remember. Don't think so though. I think December and January. So yeah, kind of like a New Year sort of roundup. Hope you're all doing well. I do have the baby monitor with me, so if you hear any strange noises, it's likely to be the baby monitor. And I've got a cup of tea in one of my lovely mugs. This one was actually from the Raw World Company Advent Calendar, not the winter just gone, but the winter before, with a yogi herbal tea. And I am wearing my Brume Hat, knitted pattern by Bmandarines, or Melody Hoffman, which I knit in Brooklyn Tweed, maybe Loft held double. I can't remember. I think it was the 4-ply one held double, and a strand of Rowan mohair, I think. And I am also wearing my Wiksten unfolding jacket, which I shared a bit more about in my moon video because it has a moon phase down the back and some embroidery on the pocket. And I'm wearing one of my older jumpers, which I still wear to bits, Fern and Feather by Jennifer Steinglass in Lettlopi. It's one of my favourite knits. I love it. And then just some old jeans. I'm actually also wearing some hand knit mohair merino cashmere nylon socks. And I'm wearing them thinking I need to make some more mohair and sock yarn socks because they are so cosy. And I'm kind of wishing I'd also made some for my son to wear in the house, because our floors are quite cold and I was walking around wearing just the socks and not my slippers upstairs, and they felt so toasty even on the cold floors, but it feels a bit late in the year now to be knitting him a pair of socks. I just thought, because he can't really wear shoes in the house because he's only just learning to walk, maybe they'd be a bit slippy, so maybe it wouldn't be a good idea anyway. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. I've got a couple of knitted finished objects, I've got a couple of knitted whips, I've got a couple of sewing finished objects, some sewing plans, yeah, so yeah. I did write myself out a list, but it's not in any kind of sensible order, so I'll try and order it as I go. I shall start with finished objects, so finished knitted objects. I'll do the knitting stuff first and then the sewing stuff at the end. Let's start with what you guys will probably be most interested in, and that is my Pelica vest. So I can't remember who designed this pattern, I'm sorry, I don't know. So this is the Pelica vest by whoever it is that designed it, it'll be in the notes below. And I knit mine in West Yorkshire Spinners, Fleece, Jacobs, the white one, which I naturally dyed this kind of colour. It was originally dyed quite like a bright butter yellow, but I grunged it up because this is more me, and I held it with a strand of Isager Spinni, which is a single ply rustic wool strand. It's not a mohair, but it just bulked it up a little bit to make it more of a Aran weight. But I ran out of the DK yarn, so mine is actually really short. So given the width of it and the boxiness of it, I'm not totally in love with the length of it. I wish it was a bit longer. I can't really wear it with trousers, And I really like, I'll try and stick a photo in if I remember. I've seen a few pictures of Lorna from Thread and Yarn wearing hers with a button-up shirt and some high-waisted cords, and it looks lovely. I mean, maybe if I had some cords that were high-waisted enough to wear that kind of outfit, it would work, but this is quite short. So far I'm really only wearing it over dresses, which I'm not sure I'm in love with, to be honest. As a separate piece, I think it's very cute. I used recycled horn buttons in a similar colour from Textile Garden. I sort of ended up knitting it inside out because I didn't like how my shoulders were looking on the inside or something. I don't know, there was a reason at the time. I'm looking at it now and thinking actually they do look quite neat. So I'm not really sure what I was on about. But for whatever reason I decided to make the wrong side my right side. So mine does look a bit different. I actually think maybe the right side would have been better. I think I probably could turn it round. I would just have to take the buttons off and put them on the other side. And it wouldn't really matter. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. But yes, there we go. Did I make any modifications other than it being shorter? And I think I did my buttonholes where I felt like doing them. I think I knew I was running out of yarn. I'd already done these two, so I felt like I had to do the third one a similar distance apart. And so actually, in the actual pattern, your bottom button isn't this far away from the bottom, it's like here. But had I known it was going to be this length, you know, I would have put one button here, one button here, and then this one a bit further down. But I didn't know it was going to be that length. So it is what it is. So yeah, Pelica vest, mixed success. I do wear it sometimes. I don't wear it as much as I would like to. So maybe I need to make another one. Or maybe it's not the item for me. I do think one in a really nice rust colour could be nice. Sorry, baby's stirring. But you know, maybe actually a really gorgeous rust would be good. Something to bear in mind, I'm hoping to go to the Woolly Good gathering this year again. And so that could be a nice project to shop for. I don't want to buy lots of yarn when I'm there. But yeah, maybe that would be a nice treat one to purchase for, because you wouldn't need that many skeins. And that could be my purchase of the festival. And then my next finished objects are actually children's knits. I'll do the boring one first and then the nicer one. So I think in the proper podcast before I shared that I'd knit a Tincan Knits Beloved Bonnet in some leftover yarn from a cardigan I'd knit in. And so this is from the jumper I'd knit him. So this is West Yorkshire Spinners BFL fleece in one of the brown colours. I bought some of this to knit my father-in-law hat. I bought one skein, ended up needing a second skein, so I bought a second skein, only used a bit of it, so used the rest of that to knit my son a jumper, ran out of that, had to buy a second skein to finish that jumper, and so ended up with half a skein of this, and so I used it to make this hat. I think I did use it all up, so success. I think there might be a tiny bit left, but not enough to worry about. And so this is the toddler size of the Tincan Knits Beloved Bonnet, and it's way too big for him. So I found a 50-gram skein in my stash of the Rowan Felted Tweed Aran weight. So this is a DK yarn, this is an Aran weight yarn. And so I didn't want to do the baby size because I thought the baby size would be too small. The toddler size was too big. And so once I'd done one, I kind of understood the construction, how it worked. And so I just did less increases, and I did a middle amount between the toddler and the baby. So I'm just sharing in case you also want to do like a middling size. Because I already had this one, I was kind of comparing the size of the increase and then holding it up, because you knit one side and then the other side, holding it up to the side of his head to kind of gauge whether I had knit enough to cover his head up or not, and his ears. Yeah, so I did a middling amount, and this one fits in perfectly for this year. So this one, maybe next year, I hope so. I hope it's not going to be too big for that. But yeah, so we're wearing this one at the moment. The Aran weight does make it a bit denser. I think the Aran weight probably also meant that it worked out bigger than it otherwise would have done. So perhaps that also has impacted the size somehow. I'm not sure I can work that out right now. But yeah, so hat for next year, hat for now. So I'm already one step ahead of next year. And then, even if you're not into children's knits, I'm sorry, this is very cute. And I would kind of love one for myself, even though it's not the kind of thing I wear. I knit him another Holger sweater. So whilst he was a baby, maybe I started this when I was pregnant, or maybe after he was born, I knit this one. So I brought it down because this is the baby pattern. So this is the Holger baby sweater. I think it actually comes as a set, like there's some leggings in the pattern as well, which I never knit. Is there a hole? No. And this is by Petite Knit. This one is 4-ply weight, and it is a drop shoulder. So you start the back and then do the front and then join in the round and then pick up and do the sleeves. I did slightly narrower sleeves on this one. I did actually make the sleeve opening as wide as she said, but I ended up stitching up an inch because it just seemed so massive. And you're meant to have a double folded collar, which you then stitch down. I did that, it looked glorious, I couldn't get it over my baby's head. And so I ended up doing a normal collar and then doing a sewn bind off, which has been fine. So it's not quite as tidy as it could have been because I took the collar out and put it back on, which is fine because you do the collar last, so that actually wasn't an issue. But I kind of wanted to show in comparison to this one. So this is the junior size pattern, so it does kind of annoy me that it's the same pattern and I had to buy another pattern to knit this one. But I think the sizes for this go up until like a reasonable age, so I could knit him these, I think, until he's a teenager, possibly, if he's going to want to wear hand knit sweaters that long. I can't remember off the top of my head what the cut-off age is. And I had most of these yarns in my stash, some of them were quite special. So this is DK weight. I felt like this took forever to knit. Again, this was mostly leftovers and sock scraps. This flew off the needles. So, you know, it is much heavier weight, it is much bigger needles. I think maybe I just enjoyed it more. So I had this grey, red and yellow in my stash for a really long time. They are the Mendip yarn by Marina Skua. I'm assuming DK and not just like sport or heavy 4-ply or something. And I bought it at a time where I didn't really understand yarn weights and quantities. She posted a picture of the 3 colours together, skeined up in a pile, and I just really loved the colour combination. So I bought a skein of each, which were 50 grams. And I did knit a hat with the most of the red and a tiny bit of the grey. And then the rest sat in my stash for a really long time, and I wanted to use them together and I didn't know on what because it wasn't very much yarn and it was like 130 grams and I couldn't think. And then at some point in my life I realised that I wanted to have a baby, and I was looking at it thinking actually that could be something really nice for my future child. And so I sat on it a bit longer, and then I decided in December I think it was that I was going to knit in this. I think this was actually my Christmas Day cast on, or my Christmas holiday cast on, so I did nearly all of it over my Christmas break. And so the yarns are leftover Law DK by the Fibre company in the green colour. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, I'll have to put in the thing below. And then 3 Mendip yarns by Marina Skua, and then the oatmeal is the Double Sunday, which I think is one of the recommended yarns for the pattern, by Petite Knit, which I've never tried before, and I bought it from a local yarn seller who does have a website, Treasure Knitting. Have you been quite unsettled today, little one? I did have an oatmeal yarn in my stash, 4-ply. I could have held double, but it was more on the cooler toned grey tinge, and so I didn't like how it played against the colours. I had a DK weight yarn that I did like how it played with the colours, but it was actually a very pale blush pink, and it was also a naturally dyed Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co yarn and whole skein. and I didn't really feel like I wanted to use that on my little boy's jumper. It seemed a bit of a waste. And so I did buy the, even though I wanted to knit entirely from stash, I did buy the oatmeal coloured yarn for the project, and I still have 1.5 skeins left. I had to buy 3 skeins to get 3 next day click and collect. You know, that's fine. She's a local businesswoman I'm happy to support. And I thought, even though I only knew that I needed 1.5, I bought 3 rather than 2 and then 1 of another colour of this colour, because I thought it's a neutral colour, I could make a hat with it, and depending on how much I have, I could use it as a main colour for another jumper. And so this is, I think, the 3 to 4 size, and it looks absolutely humongous to me. He can technically get this little one on, but it's a crop top. So you can see the difference in sizing. I think I sewed a size label into this and I put 9 to 12 months, because that's kind of roughly when he was wearing it, when he was about 9 to 12 months. It might not have been the size that I actually knit. It is on the short side because I ran out of yarn. On the short side because I ran out of yarn, so it's not as long as it was meant to be. But he wore it mostly with dungarees, so it wasn't a problem. So I have 1.5 skeins of the oatmeal left, so I'm thinking, because this is so massive, I might knit the size 2 to 3. If this is 3 to 4, no, I think this is the 2 to 3. I need to double check what size I made. This was meant for next year, but this does look truly humongous to me. So I'm umming and ahhing. I think to knit a size down, I'd be knitting his current size, which seems a bit risky, because he is 18 months. So if it was 1 to 2 years, and this was 2 to 3, am I wasting my time? But he does wear his woolly jumpers all the time. I did knit this in about 10 days, but I was off work. So do I pause and prioritise knitting him another one? I think if I have the contrast colours in my stash, then yes, I might. And pause my other whips and just bash it out, and then he can just wear it. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. You'll find out next episode whether I did that or not. Because I would have to just crack on with it. And then that's my knitting finished objects. Done. So modest, really. A waistcoat, which I think I started quite a while ago. A tiny hat, which probably only took a couple of evenings, and then a boy's jumper. And then I have 2 whips, one of which I started quite a while ago, and one of which you've never seen before. Is that true? Yeah, sort of. We'll get to that. So the whip that I'm actively working on at the moment, dropping my row counter, is the Maple Meadow cardigan by Mippy Mippy. I don't know how to say the label. And it's this gorgeous pointelle cable cardigan. So I'm knitting mine. It's got a slightly cropped body, a little bit more cropped than I wanted to do, so that was a bit of a mistake. But to make it longer, I would have to rip out the button band and the neck band, and I can't be bothered. So it is the length that it's going to be. It will look beautiful with summer dresses. And I'm doing the puff sleeve option, and this is totally inspired by Marlene from Marlene Knits, because she knit the same but with straight sleeves, not puff sleeves, and I fell in love. So I'm using the same yarn she did, which is Vovo by Retro Zaria Pomar, in the same colour that she did, which is colour 4, I think. I think I'm going to run out of yarn, because I only have this much left to finish this sleeve. and I don't think I'm going to because they're a bit on the short side at the moment. And I think if I do 3/4 length puff sleeves, it will just look like it's too small because it's short, and then the sleeves will be short. I think it will just look like I'm wearing a child's jumper. So I might need to order another skein of yarn, which is a bit annoying because I don't want to order a skein of yarn, pay postage for one skein of yarn. I'll end up buying more yarn, which I don't want to do. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll buy some yarn to knit that other stripy jumper. Even though I'm trying to knit from stash. This was totally not a knit from stash. This was, I bought the Spinni to do the waistcoat, and I just love this so much. I really wanted to knit it. So the pattern is meant to be Aran weight, and this is a sport weight, I think. So it is coming out smaller, and that will be why I am running out of yarn for the sleeves, because for the amount of knitting I've done, she expected the sleeve at this point to be longer than it is. So it's totally a me problem and not the pattern problem. The pattern is lovely. The body has been blocked. Sorry, the body has been blocked, but the sleeves haven't. So the button band and everything is finished. I've put the buttons on. The buttons are a corso, which feel really nice. The nice milky white colour. I think they're really warm and lovely looking. I have a vendetta against plastic buttons. I hate the way they feel. Don't particularly like the way they look. Just from a tactile point of view, I really like non-superwash rustic wools. I love the warmth and the feeling and the, like the heatheredness of some of them, and because I also have a bit of a thing against block dyed colours. You'll see that one of the reasons why I really like the Mendip colours is because I think so she has two bases. Sorry, I'm skipping around here. Marina has two bases for what she dyes on. She has the sunny base and the stormy base. The sunny base is a white or almost white yarn when it's undyed, and the stormy base is like a grey mould combination, so it makes the colours moodier and a bit heathered. So you'll see from most of my knitting, it's never like a flat colour, really. I mean, the beige on this is flat, but everything else has a bit of a heathered heathered textured look to it, and that's something I really, really like. I kind of struggle with variegated yarns or like heavily hand-dyed yarns, although I do buy quite a lot of hand-dyed yarn, but mostly in a more tonal, heathered kind of look. Bit of a tangent. And so I really like this because it feels rustic. I don't think it is. I would imagine it's not super wash because that's kind of the ethos of their company. It's Ecotex. It's just really gorgeous. Anyway, so I'm really enjoying knitting this. I found it hard to get into the swing of it initially because it's lace and cables and moss stitch, and trying to keep all of those things straight in my brain took me a while. But now I've got my head around it. I can actually do it whilst doing an online meeting. I don't find it difficult at all, especially because the advantage of the puff sleeves is there's no decreases to bear in mind. So I'm just doing the chart repeat over and over and over. So I'm really enjoying it at the moment because it's a knit that I have to think about, but not strenuously. So it's not just plain stockinette, there's something to do, but it's not hard because I'm in the flow of it. So I'm really enjoying that. So my next week, which you've definitely not seen, in my Knitting Nelly bag. In case you're curious, this is a Blue Rabbit house bag. She does really nice illustrations. This is a Knitting Nelly bag. I was really lucky to meet her at Rhinebeck, and yeah, very lovely woman. I actually really like Knitting Nelly's style as well. I find it very inspiring. This is the Bluebird Cardigan. Again, I'm going to have to put her name on screen because I didn't remember. Ronja something, I think. I really like Ronja's patterns. Apologies if it's not her name, I've muddled the designers up. I really like her style, her colours. Her Instagram feed is beautiful. I get the impression she must live somewhere really pretty, from what I can remember. Anyway, if you've been following my podcast, I did cast this on a couple of months ago in a yarn I naturally dyed with a undyed contrast colour. And though a lot of people said it was beautiful, and it was in its own way, it wasn't the vibe I had in mind for this cardigan. I had something much higher contrast and moodier in mind for this garment. And the other day I was in a charity shop and I found a cone of woolly knit yarn, which is a 4-ply, in this charcoal colour in the charity shop for £8. I think they're normally 22. So I bought it, not knowing what I was going to use it for. But I was umming and ahhing about casting on. I shared a crow pattern, sweater pattern, in my last video that I really liked, but that was a sport weight, and I find the woolly knit yarns quite thin. They're like a light 4-ply, and I've tried knitting it held on its own before and I didn't enjoy it because it was so light. I think I'd want to knit it with either like a fluffy strand or another strand, or held double. So this is held double, so it's a DK pattern. So this is going to be slightly heavier than the pattern was intended because it's 2 light 4-ply strands. So it probably is more like maybe like an Aran weight. No, probably not quite that, but it probably will bloom quite well. And I'm holding, and then the contrast is this really gorgeous yarn. Do I have the label in here? I don't think I do. Which is a shame. This is from my Raw Wool Company advent calendar last year, and it is, I'll put the name of which one it is below. All of the yarns are undyed, and so this is like a warm beigey mix, and it feels so lovely. I absolutely love it. I wish I could justify just buying a whole sweater's quantity of their yarn, because I would love to knit a whole garment in one of their yarns. It just feels so good. But to be honest, I am also really enjoying how the woolly knit yarn is feeling. Do I have... It's on the floor. Like, this also feels really glorious. Like, rustic in a non-itchy way, both of them. I think they go together really, really well. And obviously by using a thrifted cone, it has made the project a lot more affordable. Even if I'd paid for the cone full price, you know, this one skein of yarn was probably £25. This whole cone was 22. And I'm not going to use it all to knit this jumper. So I could probably do some colourwork accessories to go with it. This will probably go in my colourwork options stash, because there probably isn't anything. There probably isn't enough there to knit anything unless I knit another hat for my son, which he doesn't need. So it'll probably go in the colourwork options box. But yeah, I absolutely love this. I've split for sleeves, and I'm now working on the body. It's got a steek for the front. So the only mod I did was I did 5 steek stitches rather than the 2 or 3 she wanted. And now that I've passed the colourwork, I've decreased down to 3 steek stitches, just because I wanted a bit more room to play with securing the steek on the colourwork, which I will do on the sewing machine before I cut it open. So yeah, really, really enjoying that. I think it's beautiful. But this one's on pause because it is now just plain stockinette. I'm also considering doing puff sleeves on this one. I don't know, I haven't decided. I think I did knit a size, I think I've gone up half a needle size. In fact, I have written this on the pattern. So what did I do? Because it's going to be slightly heavier than what she intended. Right, I can show you this page because it's not anything other than just the information. That's the finished pattern. So I decided, because I'm holding a sport and 4-ply yarn held double, that I was going to go up a needle size. So I'm using 3.75 for the ribbing. I wanted to use the original 3.5, but I don't have one in a short circumference for the sleeve cuffs. And then 4.5 for the main body, and it was meant to be 4. So that's millimetres. So yeah, so I'm knitting in the round, and I have knit it a bit bigger because I wanted it to be a bit more oversized, because as you'll see I have quite a lot of cropped fitted knitted items, and I wanted something a bit like cozier that I could kind of really like squish into. So I'm going to try and knit it on the longer side. When I say longer, probably the same length most people knit, so past my waist, maybe to my hips, and do some cosy sleeves. I don't tend to knit things past bracelet length, so I don't know whether I'm going to do bracelet length with a bit of a puff or try and knit them to here. I don't know, I promise I get bored. But once I've finished my green jumper, that will probably become my take to work project. Although it will get quite big, so I don't know how that's going to go. But as I'm managing to knit my green one at work, I'm just going to carry on taking it with me. Whilst I am working, I would like to add, in case anybody's watching this, during like team meetings and stuff like that. Sorry, I still have a cold. Yeah, and so the last thing for me to share with my knitting is I've been really eyeing up this yarn I bought by Thread and Yarn last summer, I think it was. It's her Corriedale sock blend, which is a non-superwash, non-plastic sock yarn. And I'm really trying to decide what to knit with it. Do I knit some textured socks? Do I knit some plain vanilla socks? Which would mean the colours really get to shine. Do I knit them with a strand of mohair and have some gloriously decadent socks? And maybe knit them a bit longer and have them in the house? Do I knit an accessory? I really can't decide. I think the yarn is beautiful, and part of me is a bit sad to use it just for socks. But then I also kind of just want to. So I can't decide. They would make the most beautiful socks. I don't think it would suit me as a like a small shawl or accessory. I think it's not really my colour. So I don't know. I thought about a Musselburgh hat. Because that's in stockinette. Because I feel like in stockinette is where you're really going to see the colours shine. And I don't know that that's going to suit me. I think it might just make me look a bit zombified. So I'm not sure. I could knit like a summer top. But I think the only times I've knit a summer top is I have used superwash yarn just because it's less warm. So would an actual woolly summer top be any good? Probably not. For me, anyway. So, I don't know. What do you think? I really want it to be something I use and wear. To be honest, if I had a little girl, I'd be very tempted to knit her something with this. Because the colours are just slightly feminine in a not feminine way, if that makes sense. But I don't. So I can't. So I do need to think of something for me, but I really don't know. What would you knit with this? Socks. It feels really lovely, so yeah, I'm really not sure. So I just wanted to share that again in case anybody had any strong opinions about what I could make with it. I have been knitting the same pair of non-superwash plastic-free socks for ages, and they're just sat in a pile because I think it's probably too big. I've knit 3/4 of one sock. And if I'm honest, I think I'm probably going to rip the whole thing out. So I'm a bit annoyed about that. Yeah, I don't know. So that's the end of the knitting section. This section is going to be a micro sewing section. I haven't got that much sewing to share. And it's all trousers and linen. So I'll start with my trousers. So a couple of months ago, I went to a local event called Sew Brume, which is organised by, usually by a friend, but this time by a local business as a one-off. And there was a seller there. I can't remember the name of the company, which is bad. And she had some Merchant and Mills fabrics at 20% off. So how could I not? Including this linen cotton blend, which is not a colour you've probably ever seen me wear. It's pink. And I don't do pink. But there was something about the orange and pink combo that drew me in. I don't know, had something hit me on the head that day. Do not know. I was a bit giddy because I'd been given the day off to myself, and someone else was going to, well, my mother-in-law was going to have the baby. And so I got to hang out with my friends and talk about knitting and sewing, and I didn't have to worry about naps or meal times or anything. and that was an absolute rarity back then. It's getting a bit easier now. But yeah, so I probably was a bit high on the freedom. But so I bought a meter, thinking I could just about squeeze out a pair of bob pants, and I did. I had to use a scrap fabric for the pockets, so this is just orange linen I had in my stash, just some scraps. And I had to piece the waistband together from like random pieces. So my waistband was actually in 4 pieces. Oh, poor baby. There's a bit of a cough. My waistband was in 4 pieces rather than 2. But I did manage to make it work. So these are my bob pants. If I get around to it, I'll take a photo of me wearing them and share the picture. Who knows whether that's going to happen, because that would have to happen after I film this. So maybe I'll be good and do that. We probably wouldn't go with this jumper, that's the only thing. But I can't decide whether they look like pyjamas or not. I did think it when I made them, would they look like pyjamas? Would they end up being really decadent pyjamas? Or could I wear them as summer trousers? I have been wearing them a bit in the house and out the house slightly as actual trousers. Everyone can do what they want. I personally do not like wearing pyjamas out of the house. And I wouldn't want anyone to think I was wearing pyjamas out of the house. It's just not for me. So I don't know. But then I wondered if I was wearing them with like a cropped summer top in the summer, maybe, and it's really hot out, maybe they wouldn't look like pyjamas, that would look more intentional. So I don't know. You can weigh in if you want. I do think they're kind of the fashion now, so maybe it is okay, but I'm undecided. I do really like the colour combination of that and these. I feel like that could go together really well as like a citrusy spring outfit. Whether the length of the cardigan and the waist of this will work out, I don't know. But yeah. So I had a mark on them. Have really enjoyed wearing them. We'll try and remember to take a picture for you. And on a similar vein, I made these. They're a bit scrunched and crinkly because they're only partially dry on the radiator. So my mum has gotten into making bob pants too, and she bought this linen from Ray Stitch. It is called Copper. I really love it. If I didn't have some orangey gingham cotton bob pants, I would be making myself some in this fabric. But she gave me all of her scraps, which I have some more of, not in this colour, but in some different fabrics, so that I could make some clothes for my little boy. And so there was just enough to make the Sage trousers by Flora Child, which I've made loads of times. I batch cut a load out of my scraps for all of his ages, I think up until like 5. I haven't sewn them all up yet because I'm kind of sewing them in batches according to colour. Like I sewed up all the lime green ones. I was going to sew up all the orange ones when I did these, but I just wanted him to have these so badly. I just sewed these up and I haven't sewn up the other orange ones yet. But he has worn his cord ones I made tons. His linen ones last summer he wore to bits. They actually, my mum said, oh, he'll probably just wear through the knees and stuff really quickly. He wasn't crawling so much when he wore his orange ones last summer, but he was butt scooting, like he does this weird thing with his butt like this. And I will say that he did pop the French seam on the butt once. He didn't rip it, didn't wear through anything, and I could easily restitch it. And they're still perfect and they're put away in case they get used again. And again, I've sewn in age labels because I have lots of very similar pairs of trousers. It's very hard to tell. I do think the sizing on the pattern is very generous. So I think this is actually the 9 to 12 months, but I've put an age 1 to 2 in there because he's wearing them now and he is 18 months. So to me, that's 1 to 2. Yeah, I absolutely love them. Not much more to say. Oh, other than I totally and utterly bodged up sewing these. So I have been making his with French seams because he doesn't have side pockets. I would make my bob pants with French seams, but I can't be bothered doing that when I'm involving inseam pockets. Because he doesn't have inseam pockets, I find it really easy to do the French seams. But I managed to make 2 fully French seamed and hemmed left legs. And then I went to join them and I couldn't work out how to join the 2 legs together and get the seams the right way round, which is something I do struggle with when I'm making French seamed trousers. And I must have put them against each other and mind sewing them and turning them the right way out to then do the French seam millions of times. I was like, I don't understand why this isn't working out. And then it turned out it was because I had 2 fully finished left legs, or 2 right legs, I can't remember. So I was really irritated. And so if you know a French seam, and I don't have one to show you, the seam is enclosed, but it does stick out. It's a really nice seam finish. If you don't have an overlocker, I really recommend a French seam. It's a really nice finish. And I didn't have enough fabric to cut out another leg. So it was either give up or find a way around it. And if I'm honest, and I don't know whether this is a bit lame or not, I have been dreaming about him wearing some gingham and linen trousers like mine. And I have been really trying to resist buying some fabric from Merchant & Mills with the intention of making him some trousers, because I have made him trousers out of my scraps, but they're plain orange linen, plain lime linen, lime coloured cord, nothing like this. And this is what I wanted him to wear, with a brown jumper, which, yes, looks a lot like one of my favourite outfits I wear all the time. But I thought it'd be really, really cute. And so I've been really trying to resist either buying fabric just to make him some trousers or buying him some second-hand trousers by quite an expensive company that are similar. So I was really sad to give up on these trousers and just cast them away. So I ended up doing fake flat felt seams. And so to do that, I just stitched down the French seam against it, which was really difficult to do because they were already constructed like as 2 legs. So it was tricky. I was kind of doing this on the machine, trying to get the whole leg under. So it's not perfect. It is a bit messy in places, but it's good enough. And when they're on, you can't tell. So yes, one leg is flat felled seamed, one's fake flat felled seamed, but it doesn't matter. There's still no raw edges. So I had to unpick the hem of one to iron it up and then do the hem on the other side because of the situation with the flat felled seams. Kind of confusing unless you're in that situation. It doesn't make any sense. So if you ever do the same thing where you have 2 French seamed legs on the same side, do flat felled seams and pretend you did it on purpose. So it basically meant the pair of trousers took me 3 times longer than they should have done, because I had a panic halfway through and got upset. But they're finished. He's wearing them. He looks so cute in them. I don't think I have a photo in which I'd be happy to share, but if I do, I will. You might just have to appreciate them here. And then that's it really. I'm sorry, this might be quite a long video. I did, talking of not buying fabric for the sake of it, I did have an impulse purchase. This came up on Vinted and it's Merchant Mills 2 meters, like an oatmeal grey and black gingham. And I have seen a couple of people wearing dresses made from this or similar, and I always thought your outfit looks really lovely. And so it was a good price. It was £40, I think, including postage for 2 meters, which if you know Merchant & Mills, that is a good price. And so I bought it without really thinking about it. And it's arrived and I'm like, is this me? I don't know if this is me or not, but it feels wonderful. So whether it's me or not, I think I have to wear it. And buying 2 meters of gingham linen from Merchant & Mills directly isn't really in my affordability or ability to afford right now. You know, I work part-time, we're renovating a house, I've got a baby. This was an indulgence buying this. So normally I'd be like, just save up for the thing that you really want rather than something like buying this. But I thought if I don't use it, my mum would probably buy it off me. Because she would enjoy making a skirt or some trousers with this. Or I could make a pair of trousers and she could make a skirt or something like that, or I could make a skirt and she could da-da-da. So anyway, I will maybe stick up some photos of some of the things I've seen on Instagram that I'm inspired by, and I'm umming and ahhing, and if you have any thoughts, feel free to share. But I'm thinking something maybe a bit different to my normal shapes. Could be quite good. I think it looked quite nice with my Bluebird cardigan I'm knitting because it's the same colours. But I'm not really a black person, so I don't know. But it feels so lovely. I just want to wear it. So yeah, I don't know. Summer dress. I kind of, because it's 2 meters and it's a rarity to have 2 meters now, I do kind of want to make the most of it, but I also then don't want to make something for the sake of it that I'm not going to get the most wear out of. And so if using 1 meter to make a skirt is how I would use the most, like make the most of that fabric, then I would, gift the other meter to my mum for her to make something with. But equally, I don't know, a tiered skirt? No. Although there was one actually that I was eyeing up that I quite liked. I don't know. It's really hard when you're making things and you can't fully visualise it. It's not like going to a shop where you can try the stuff on and go, yeah, actually no, I don't like that. So I don't know. But that's probably a summer project. That's probably not happening anytime soon. But I just wanted to share. So anyway, that's been a lot of chatting. It's probably quite long. That's where I'm at. That's December and January. I don't go in for the new year, new me ethos. I don't think it's healthy, but coming from someone who's had quite a long period of not being very well lately, I'm not doing new year, new me, but I am trying to do new year focus on trying to be healthier. I don't know that it's necessarily something I have very much control over at the moment. Because it's not like I have an unhealthy lifestyle to begin with. But I am really focusing on nutrition. I am taking supplements seriously for the first time. I am trying to consider more than ever what goes into my body and trying to do what is within my means to improve my health. Because I've basically been ill now since August. I most recently had a chest infection, which was pretty grim. And I'm fed up with it. I know it's being a baby mama, that's what it is. But trying to take control. Maybe it'll just psychologically make me feel better and actually not make any difference, who knows. But yeah, that's where I'm at, end of January. Maybe next video will be a bit of a vlog, I don't know, I'd love to. I am umming and ahhing about upgrading my phone and trying to make the video quality a bit better, but if I'm honest, I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to pixel quality and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know whether I can bring myself to do it or not. We shall see. Anyway, I'm going to stop blabbering, I'm going to tidy up, and I'm going to go dye my hair. How exciting. Because I recently had a haircut, so I want to dye it so I can have a fully fresh hairdo. So hope you're doing well. Chat to you soon. Bye bye.